The famine was devastating. First-hand accounts reveal how people clamored for the starch water in which rice had been boiled. They were reduced to eating leaves and grass. The dead piled up in streets and villages because the living were too weak to cremate them. Parents would throw their children into rivers and wells to spare them a slow, painful death. Others committed suicide to escape the torment. The survivors were either lucky enough to find work in Calcutta or earned food by prostituting themselves. The people of Bengal depended on grain crops, especially wheat and rice, to survive. In late 1942, a cyclone hit the region, destroying a huge amount of planted grain and triggering an outbreak of fungus that laid waste to yet more crops. As a result, going into 1943, food stocks in Bengal were far lower than normal. Still, those 4 million people could have been saved by a timely supply of food from elsewhere. In 2011, journalist Madhusri Mukherjee uncovered documents which suggest the death toll reached such horrific heights because the Prime Minister of Great Britain, the man in charge of its vast empire, refused to help them. Mukherjee points out that before the famine even loomed, Winston Churchill's policies directly contributed towards it. In 1942, Japan took control of Burma, Bengal's next-door neighbor. To stave off the threat of a Japanese invasion, the British stationed a significant army presence in the region. They evicted about 180,000 farmers and seized 125,000 acres of farmland for the army base. They also seized all boats in the region and banned shipping, despite the fact that a significant proportion of Bengal's food supply came from trade in the bay. Furthermore, Churchill enacted a denial policy in the region, better known as scorched earth. Rice crops and stores of grain were deliberately destroyed by the army, just in case the Japanese invaded. Nevertheless, India still exported 70,000 tons of rice for the British war effort in the first half of 1943, just as the famine was taking hold. This was enough to feed 400,000 people for a year. While Bengal was depleting its food stock, Britain, on the other hand, increased its stockpile of food and raw materials to 18.5 million tons. Its population had 14 million fewer than Bengal's. Sir Archibald Wavell and the Secretary of State for India, Leopold Amery, requested food be shipped to India to relieve the famine. Churchill bluntly refused. He also refused offers of help from Canada and the United States of America. Australian supply ships sailed right past India and into Europe. Churchill wouldn't let them divert into Bengal to provide food for the starving masses. News and pictures of the famine were censored in Britain, so the British public knew nothing about it. A sketchbook depicting the famine was banned by the British. Churchill's reasoning was simple. The starvation of anyhow underfed Bengalis is less serious than sturdy Greeks. Churchill's racist disregard for India is well documented. He despised Gandhi and infamously called Hindus a beastly people with a beastly religion. Regarding the 1943 crisis in Bengal, he said, "Famine or no famine, Indians will breed like rabbits."